Rob DeCou. I'm currently living in Los Angeles, California. I was raised in Port Angeles, Washington. I have a wife. We've got 2 kids, a 2-year-old Hudson and a 5-month-old Kalea.
Say something? Hudson. This is Kalea. She wanted to say hi. Can you say hi? Hi.
See, my background, I grew up in Port Angeles, spent my high school days there. My main sports were track and field, wrestling, football. And when I got into college, I started getting into ultra endurance sports. So I moved into marathoning and then cycling. About 3 years ago, I had my first major ultra endurance event, which was the Race Across America. So it was a 12-day nonstop cycling race from Oceanside, California to Annapolis, Maryland. And we finished it with just under 3 hours to spare, so it took me 11 days, 21 hours and 3 minutes. I keep this kind of life list of things that I want to do, and so I have this list of, it used to be 100 things that I was kind of checking off, and one of the items on that list was qualifying for the Race Across America. So I never intended to race it, but I more just wanted to qualify because I'd heard about it, and it was this kind of insane experience where there's very few people who had ever accomplished the whole thing. So for me, it was just getting to that where you could have a chance at it. A couple years after I got married, my wife was talking to me, and she was like, "Why don't we do this race?" And I was like, "That race is crazy." And she was like, "No, this would be really fun." And so I went through the whole thing. Like, if you're okay with me training for, it's about an 18-month build-up, and it's very expensive and a lot of logistics. And she was on board for it. So for me to be able to have an opportunity to go after something that's that far outside of my capability range was exciting.
He has a huge faith. It's something that really is an undercurrent of any event or ultra endurance sport that he pursues. It's a faith that helps him dig deep in times when he is suffering. He has learned to suffer well and to persevere well because he has such a strong faith.
So it was the first big one where I started wanting to link a lot of the ultras and different things I'm doing with bigger causes. And I'd had a close friend that passed away of brain cancer, 2 of us riding for 3,000 miles to a cure to raise money for brain cancer research. If you focus on things and you train and you're doing things in proper alignment and in the proper form with the proper groups, you get stronger the further you go. If you have anything out of alignment in your life, you get weaker and you get broken down. And so, Race Across America, getting ready for this, going through the training, aligning with these different groups, I could see things just building, and I felt myself getting stronger, getting more connected with prayer and with faith. Because this was so outside of the range of what I thought possible for myself, but there was something inside me that just told me, I was like, I think I have a chance at finishing this, and I wanted to lean into that and push myself to that absolute limit and then continue to keep going further on it. And it was such a powerful experience to be in that state and to be surrounded. There's multiple times where you're pushed to your limit and you don't really feel like you can go further. The thing that I hope my kids learn from this, and I'll steal a line from one of my old youth pastors. He used to challenge us to step out in faith and to do things that were uncomfortable and outside of what we would do. And if we're not willing to do that, like if we just do things that are in our own strength or in our own power or things that we can get our head around achieving, we're training ourselves and we're training those around us to stay in those comfort zones. Where if you step out into these dreams and these visions of, it's like, what if I took a risk and I actually pulled it off? And so I hope that, especially now that I have these 2 kids, that they can watch the actions that I take and the decisions I make out of faith, not knowing how they're going to turn out, but leaning into it and taking that risk to go after, your dreams and those things that, if you don't step in the arena and you don't give it a shot, you'll never know. We came up with a plan to raise money for polio eradication in District 5280 through this run that we called Rob's Run. So the run took place from August 5th to August 7th. And I kept the team fairly small, but I had a support team through the whole thing. So we started in the lowest point in the continental US, which is Badwater Basin and Death Valley. The Badwater 146 is a race from the lowest point in Death Valley to the highest point at the top of Mount Whitney, covering 146 miles. It was 135 miles to the Mount Whitney portal, and then another 11 miles up to the Mount Whitney summit, which is just over 14,000 feet. And then once you get done with it, you still have to come the 11 miles down, so it ends up being a little over 157 miles. It took me a little over 81 hours, and one of the hardest things that took place on Badwater was most of it went pretty much as scheduled until I was at about 130 miles, and then I started having some pretty bad swelling in my Achilles and my legs, and it slowed me down a lot more than I'd anticipated. And it got to the point where I didn't know if I should keep going because the injuries, it was moving into that, instead of just being pain, it might be moving into an injury. I ended up taping up my leg in a way that it pulled the pressure off it, and within a few hours after that, I could feel the tension go, the swelling go down. So once we got to the portal, I took I think about a 3-hour rest, and then because it was getting better, I decided to make the attempt to the summit, and that next day we summited the mountain and then made our way back down. So there always tends to be something that comes up where you think that you can't get through it, and it's just finding solutions around you, reaching out to your supports, reaching out to whatever means around you that you can to get you through it. And but it's one of the things that we say in ultras is never make a decision to quit when you're in a bad spot. So wait until you're in a good spot. So when you're there, stop, stretch, do whatever you need to, take a rest, and then when you're in a rested state or in a good state of mind, that's when you want to make the decision of do I continue to pursue this, or do I go down a different path? People often ask, especially athletes, when you do an event like this, so what's next? And for me, what's next is this year I'm currently training for swim, which is not one of my strength areas. So we'll be swimming across the Strait of Juan to Fuca, which is from the US to Canada. It's an 18.3 mile swim, similar distance to the English Channel for those of you who are familiar with swimming. The water temperature is about 54 degrees. And instead of raising money for polio, we're taking on another Rotary cause, which is the fight against human trafficking. So this year we'll be doing the swim from the US to Canada.
My buddy Rob DeCou is about to embark on an incredible adventure. He is going to swim 18.3 miles from the US to Canada up in the Northwest, and he's doing it to raise funds to help stop human trafficking. There are 20+ million people in the world who currently live under some kind of slavery, and it happens right here in the US, and unfortunately many of them are youth. Last year, Rob did the Badwater race from the lowest point in North America to the highest point, to the top of Mount Whitney, and with matching funds, he was able to raise $600,000 to help finally end polio on the planet. This year, he's looking to fight human trafficking. I encourage you to go to his Facebook page, which is Rob's Swim to Help End Human Trafficking.
And I once asked him if he could do anything, what would he want to do with his life? And he said he felt his life's purpose was to help other people fulfill their potential. And I didn't quite understand it at the time, but really he said he could be in any industry, doing anything. But as long as he's helping other people fulfill their potential, that he feels like he's in the right place and where he's meant to be. And I think that if you hear that and you know Rob, then it makes sense. And he does that. And I think he's able to show up and do these types of events because of his higher goal, his higher purpose, and who and what he's doing it for.